Hello, everybody. Welcome to tomorrow. So, I was going to do a little bit of a 2025 halfway through the year check in, but some stuff happened today that I really want to talk about. The big, beautiful bill passed. At least it passed in both the Senate and the House and is now on its way to the president's desk and will be signed tomorrow, July 4th, Independence Day for the United States. And this is not the budget bill for 2026. This is an extra bill. It's called a budget reconciliation bill. And the most recent example of this, it doesn't happen very often, but it has happened a lot more in recent years. A good example of this would be like the American Rescue Plan for the stimulus checks that we got during COVID, or the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. Those weren't actual budgets. Those were an extra spending bill. This extra spending bill raises the debt limit by over $3 trillion, takes away Medicaid from a lot of people, raises a bunch of requirements for different programs. There's a lot of stuff in it. There's a lot of stuff in it. But what we want to talk about today is the NASA stuff that's included in that. This is in response to Ted Cruz's, budget response to the president's budget request for fiscal year 2026 in regards to NASA. And it's essentially word for word what he wanted in that. It's an extra $10 billion for mainly the Space Launch System, the SLS, and it guarantees that Artemis 4 and Artemis 5 will fly. It gives over $2.6 billion for the Gateway space station to ensure that that continues to be built and is put into. Hopefully, this will change, but the plan for now is to still put it in its near rectilinear halo orbit. There's also a little bit of money for the Orion capsule, about $20 million, I'm assuming for Artemis 4 and Artemis 5. There's also $1.2 billion for the International Space Station to ensure that it continues and at least until 2030. And then there's a separate amount of money for the deorbit vehicle that has been contracted to SpaceX to safely deorbit the International Space Station. There's also about $700 million for a Mars telecommunications orbiter to help with future Mars programs, especially if we do plan on doing human missions to Mars. And the crazy part is in the actual budget request for 2026, they're talking about canceling the Mars sample return mission and not really any specifics about any other Mars missions beyond that. Oh, and this Mars telecommunications orbiter would be delivered and ready for launch by 2028. So, okay. There's also several $100 million for the various NASA centers to help do repairs and upgrades and other types of critical stuff for those facilities here on the ground. And there's also about $85 million to move a space vehicle. A lot of people think that means moving Space Shuttle Discovery from the Smithsonian to the Houston Space Center, the Visitor Center, attached to the Johnson Space Center that would be this space vehicle, but the wording is actually really vague. So yeah, $85 million shall be obligated to carry out subsection blah 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 to transportation of a space vehicle described in that subsection, with the remainder transferred no later than the date blah 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 blah. The description for this, the space vehicle described, is a space vehicle that has flown into space, has carried astronauts, and is selected with the concurrence of an entity designated by the administrator. So it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a space shuttle, it just could be. Would be a lot simpler too. It could also be a Dragon, or better yet, could be a Starliner. That could be that space vehicle to go on display at Houston. I don't know. That'd be kind of mean, but why do this when there's other things that we need to be worrying about? The big cuts that they want to do, the up to 50% or more budget cuts to the science division of NASA, is getting really serious. And according to Ars Technica, a lot of the program managers have been getting orders to essentially come up with a plan to close out their program. And soon they have deadlines. According to Eric Berger, a bunch of the program managers have been asked to come up with closeout plans for their specific program by the end of next week, July 9th. Projects should prepare their plans assuming closeout direction is given on October 1st, 2025. That's when the budget is expected to at least be talked about, if not passed, by Congress for fiscal year 2026. It's definitely not going to be passed by then, but that's the plan. The NASA memo states that missions in operations, that is to say, spacecraft whizzing around the solar system conducting science right now, should assume closeout is complete within 3 months. So they essentially want a plan to close out their specific program and be prepared to actually enact that plan within 3 months from now before a budget is actually passed. And a whole bunch of these programs are active ones. Like they're talking about canceling the Juno spacecraft, our only probe at Jupiter right now, which is getting phenomenal science and awesome images as well. They're talking about canceling Osiris Rex. Well, actually, now it's called Osiris Apex because it already completed its mission for Osiris Rex and it has been continued to rendezvous with a different object instead, which it's on course for and would rendezvous in 2029. I know that's several years away, but this is just an extra, side quest that we've been able to do with this spacecraft. I mean, not only that, it cancels several of the Mars orbiters. It cancels Mars Odyssey. It cancels Maven. It's even talking about canceling the New Horizons probe. Essentially, well, here, Eric Berger goes on to say that the Trump White House released its budget proposal a little more than a month ago, saying that they wanted to reduce NASA's budget overall by 24%, from 24.8 billion this year to 18.8 billion for fiscal year 2026. Some areas within that budget were hit harder than others, particularly the Science Mission Directorate, which sustained nearly 50% in proposed cuts. And this is the important part. The space agency has 124 science missions that are either in development, are prime operations, meaning that they're active in space right now, or they're in extended operations doing side quests like the Osiris Rex spacecraft. Effectively, the proposed cuts would cancel 41 of these missions, and another 17 would see their funding zeroed out in the near future. Nearly half of NASA's science missions would therefore end, and dozens more would receive budget cuts of 20 to 40%. So, yeah, this is not great news. And there's definitely some sort of, I mean, this feels nefarious in some way. And I know that there's a lot of other bigger, more probably more important things included in this whole big, beautiful bill that people are rightly have more of a reason to be upset about. But in regards to what NASA's getting, I mean, this is just a lot of really bad news. We're essentially giving up on all of these amazing programs that are in space right now doing cool things and giving up a whole bunch of other programs that I've wanted to see. We're canceling the Venus probes. I think Dragonfly isn't necessarily being talked about. They might end Hubble. James Webb would be saved. They would continue the James Webb Space Telescope. And apparently, the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope is okay. It's not on the chopping block, supposedly. That could change. But man, there's just a lot about this that doesn't make sense. I want to love NASA. I want to love the NASA programs. I want to believe in the human spaceflight program, which, you know, admittedly is my favorite part, but it has been awful. We've been waiting so long for this stuff to fly. We've been waiting so long, and we've only gotten one SLS launch so far. And all of this money, at least $2 billion per launch of the SLS rocket, and continuing with work for the exploration upper stage and the mobile launch tower that may or may not only be used once or twice. It's frustrating. As far as Gateway goes, I would love to see some of those modules be completed in terms of their construction, but repurposed for other things like a new low Earth orbit space station. So maybe there is hope for some of this stuff. As far as Gateway goes, maybe it could still be a lunar station, but can we put it in a different orbit? One that makes a little bit more sense other than the near rectilinear halo orbit? And can some of these science missions be saved? Jared Isaacman has previously talked about contributing some of his own money to put programs past the finishing line and to launch. And maybe that could still be done, not necessarily only by Jared Isaacman, but maybe we could propose some sort of thing. It might have to be passed into law, but a way that we could publicly fund, even though it already is publicly funded by taxpayer dollars, but a way for private citizens to continue the payments or at least continue the program for certain missions and allow them to still happen. And maybe, just maybe, some of these programs that are already, in some phase of development or in space in operation or doing extended operations would be able to be so expensive to close them down that the people at the Office of Management and Budget would drop the idea of canceling a particular mission because the cost of canceling it would be more than the yearly cost of continuing to operate it. And I'm not saying that in like a false manner of saying that it would be more expensive, but just maybe the different parts involved with everything, it might make sense that way, that some programs could be saved by it costing more to shut them down than it would be to continue their mission. One can hope anyway. So yeah, not exactly great news, and this could all be vetoed somehow, even though this is what the president has been pushing for and has wanted, this whole big beautiful bill thing. But it at least gives extra money to NASA for these programs to ensure that these missions for the Space Launch System, for Gateway, for the International Space Station, and at least this Mars telecommunication orbiter get done separate from the budget that NASA normally would have year over year. So this is extra money for NASA for these specific programs that wouldn't be a part of the fiscal year budget. This is guaranteed money, not just for the rest of this year, but into 2026, 2027, all the way into 2034 in some cases. A lot of the funds would be available. Like it has a cutoff of September 30th, 2032, with the expectation that those missions would be complete for these specific programs for this extra money would be complete by 2034. That's quite a ways away, but this is a weird kind of situation of extra money for these programs that wouldn't be tied to the yearly monies going in and out. So this is in a way a little bit new territory for how NASA spends their budgets, and is definitely going to have to be accounted for in a separate manner, but it's just wild. And I'm sure that me and the rest of the Tomorrow crew are going to have a lot to say about this and do that check in that I was talking about of where are we now at the middle of the year of 2025 in terms of the goals of spaceflight this year and what has been accomplished, what has failed, and what we still have to look forward to for the rest of the year. So be sure to join us this Sunday for our live show. We didn't have a live show last Sunday because of crew unavailability, but this weekend, we do have a bit more crew availability. So be sure to tune in this Sunday for our regular live show where we're going to be talking about this stuff in a lot more detail. So I hope to see you then. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified whenever we upload another video. I'm sorry that this wasn't a little bit more edited and a bit more to talk about, but these are just kind of the thoughts that I'm having with this strange reconciliation budget bill that has been passed that affects NASA and so many other aspects of American life. But this isn't the channel for that. Not that we're unsympathetic to those issues, but trying to focus on spaceflight here. If you enjoy what we do, consider becoming a member. You can contribute for as little as $1 a month to get access to exclusive content and to help support us make more videos like this in the future. Again, thank you very much for watching. I'm Space Mike, and until the next time I see you guys, keep moving onwards and upwards, and don't forget, ad astra, to the stars.